So going into examples of function composition, remember we're looking at the problem and we're going to be thinking about the outside letter and the inside letter. Okay, so let's take a look at our first example. Our first example here, the question says f of g of x, and then we have our two functions, f of x and g of x. So the first thing you want to do is look at the outside letter. Okay, look at the outside letter. That's f. So what we're going to do is we're going to start writing down the function for f, but instead of x, I'm going to leave a blank parentheses. So I'm going to start writing down 2. Instead of x, I leave a blank spot, plus 1. Okay. Now we think about the inside letter. So the inside letter is g, so that literally means that inside the parentheses, we're going to write the function for g. So in the parentheses that I just left, we're going to put 5x plus 2. Okay. So when you look at the function composition, you're looking at the outside letter. That's what you start with. So you write that down. And then you're literally putting the inside function into those parentheses. Okay. Now let's distribute. So we take the outside 2 and we're multiplying that by the numbers inside the parentheses. 2 times 5x, that's going to make 10x. 2 times 2, that's 4. And then positive 1 on the outside, we just write that down. Okay, it's kind of tagging along. Now these are like terms, so I can combine those. And the final answer is 10x plus 5. Okay, and this is your final answer. That is f of g of x. Okay. Now let's look at a second example. And after that second example, we can check in and see if there's any questions. Okay, so we got that first example under our belt. Let's take a look at one more. So here we're using the same functions, but the outside letter has switched now. Okay, so let's take a look at that again. The outside letter here is g. So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with the function g. So I'm going to write that down. But instead of x, I'm going to leave parentheses. So I have 5, and then parentheses, plus 2. Now I'm literally looking at what's inside the function. So f is inside. So that means I'm going to put this function inside the parentheses, because this is the function for f. So 2x plus 1 goes in the parentheses. Now I'm going to take the outside 5 and I'm going to multiply. 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times 1 is positive 5. And that positive 2 just tags along again. These can combine together. So my final answer is 10x plus 7. Okay. Now, really important, we use the same functions for example 1 and example 2, but let's look at the answer for example 1, 10x plus 5. And let's look at the answer for example 2, 10x plus 7. Just because we're using the same functions does not mean that the answer is going to be the same. So depending on the composition, depending on what letter is on the outside, what function is on the outside, the answer is going to change. So that's why it's super, super important that you make sure you understand how to read the function composition. You start with the outside function, and then you put the inside one into those parentheses. Okay. Any questions on example 1 or example 2? Okay, we're going to jump into two more. So after those two examples, you should be a little bit more comfortable. Let's jump into these. Hopefully these will go a little quicker. So these are very similar, okay? We're still using only linear functions. Okay, so we're still only plugging in a linear function into a linear function. Let's see if we can get through these a little quicker. So we have our outside function, which is f. So again, outside, I'm going to be starting by writing down this function. Instead of x, I leave parentheses. So 4 parentheses plus 9. Now looking at the inside, g is on the inside. So I'm plugging this into the parentheses. Negative 3x plus 1. Negative 3x plus 1. Okay. Now we are going to distribute, so we're going to take the 4 on the outside and we are going to distribute that, meaning multiply. So 4 times negative 3x, that's negative 12x. 4 times 1, that's positive 4. And the plus 9 is just going to come down. Okay. We can combine like terms. So my final answer, I have negative 12x. And then 4 plus 9 is going to give me positive 13. Okay. Any questions on that example? Okay, we got one more. So one more example, very similar to this. So here, again, we're using the same functions, but we're switching g and f of x. So now our outside function is g. So that's the one I'm going to be writing down first. Okay, so this is what I'm writing down. I'm going to write down negative 3. Instead of x, I'm leaving a space, plus 1. And now we look at the function on the inside. So on the inside, we have f of x, which is 4x plus 9. That's what goes in the parentheses. 4x plus 9. Now, like the last couple examples, we're going to distribute. So you take the negative 3, and you're going to be multiplying that. Negative 3 times 4x is negative 12x. Negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. And then that positive 1 just comes down. Okay, again, these can be combined. So our final answer is negative 12x. Negative 27 and positive 1 gives us negative 26. And this is the final answer. Okay. Are there any questions on those examples? Okay, I have one more example for you, and then we're going to be done with our lecture. So our last example, we're going to switch things up a little bit. The last 4 examples, we've been using only linear functions. So for our last example, we're going to switch that up, and we're going to have a quadratic. So we have an x squared in here. Okay? So we approach this problem the same way, same exact way. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the outside letter, which in this case is F. Okay. So I'm going to write that down first, but wherever I see an X, I'm going to put parentheses. So here I have parentheses squared. Now the inside letter, that's our G, okay, inside letter. That's what's going inside the parentheses. So the function g, x plus 7, that goes inside the parentheses. Now I'm hoping this looks familiar to you because we just went over stuff like this yesterday in class, but we've also been talking about binomials and multiplying functions together for a while now. So x plus 7 squared, what that really means is x plus 7 multiplied by the same thing, x plus 7. And hopefully your brain is kind of screaming at you right now that this is a problem where we're going to use the box method that we've been talking about. Okay? We're going to multiply these two binomials together using the box method. So remember, with box method, I'm going to draw a box out and split that into 4 quadrants. So we have x plus 7, and we have x plus 7, and then we're going to start multiplying things out like a multiplication table. Okay, so x times x, that's x squared. Then you have top right, x times 7, that's 7x. Then you have bottom left, 7 times x is 7x. And your final box is 7 times 7, okay, bottom right, 7 times 7, and that's 49. Okay, so we're going to write our final answer combining like terms. This and this are going to combine together. So our final answer is x squared. 7x plus 7x is 14x plus 49. And that is going to be our final answer.